Okay, so that's a good first step. For recording, we did get a question about that. We do record our sessions and we will email you once it's available, and we'll show you where we post our recordings when we get to that page. So welcome everyone. This is Copyright and Creativity, teaching copyright K-12, and we do have resources, appropriate resources for folks as kiddos as young as kindergarten, and we'll hear about some of their responses and how they feel about that. But you saw it, it's all free and ready to go. So you could teach it tomorrow if you wanted, or teach it next week. So again, the bit.ly CC AUG 2025, it's case sensitive. It's on this page. It's on this slide. It's also on slide 4 and 7 if for folks that join a little later on. And feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. We love to know where people are coming from. Folks sometimes know our presenters. Jenn Roth from Pennsylvania has a big following. So a lot of times folks will give Jenn a personal shout out. So feel free to do that as well. And we have over 450 folks registered today. So we're excited and see that there is an ongoing need for copyright education. My name is Dana Greenspan. I'm a retired educator on the classified side of the house. I retired from Ventura County Office of Education in 2017, eons ago now. We were both a school district and a support agency, sort of like the RISAs and BOSAs across the country. And we had special education court community students and served school districts from the size of 20 students up to 20,000 students. And our smallest school district, the one with 20, the superintendent principal also taught kindergarten. So we've seen the gamut of district sizes and what their unique needs are. So I'm going to go ahead. I have 3 awesome educators with me today. It's always such a pleasure. You're going to see how terrific these gals are. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So Jenn, I see you. Would you like to unmute and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jenn Roth, and I am an educator librarian in Pennsylvania. I educate students K through 6. I have about 500 students that I teach on a 4-day cycle every week, and I'm just really excited to be here, and I am enjoying my last week of summer vacation.
Thanks, Jenn. Yeah, I forgot to add that I hope everybody had a great summer and is easing back into school. Julie, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. My name's Julie Jamieson. I am a librarian outside of St. Louis, Missouri. I've been doing the library job for about 20 years now. I also am the K-12 library curriculum coordinator in my fairly large school district. I start school back on Monday, so I am sitting here in my office that just got painted, and I don't have things back up looking homey yet. But I'm very happy to be here with you today.
Great, thanks. And Brittany, I don't know if Brittany. Oh yeah, Brittany's there. Okay, Brittany, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Brittany Fleming. I am in Northwest Arkansas. It is day 3 for me at school.
Oh, wow.
So I just got off of duty. I am a K-4 librarian. I also get to teach a copyright and digital citizenship course for a university in Central Arkansas as a graduate program. So yeah. Sorry, I feel like I'm kind of all over the place since I just sat down.
That's okay. And all 3 of these gals are going to be at ASL conference this year in Julie's hometown of St. Louis. And if you're if you're attending, feel free to stop by. We're going to have some sessions and introduce yourself, ask questions, share your experiences with folks. So we're happy to meet you in person. So just an important disclaimer, we're not lawyers, we're not giving legal advice, so nothing we say today is to be construed as legal advice. So please don't go back to your district and say, but those gals said we could do X, Y, Z. So, and when it comes to questions, please put your questions in the chat. We find that we answer about 90% of those questions during our presentation, but we might have something that we don't get to, so we'll try and address that. But again, we can't give specific legal advice. So if we're a little bit take a high level approach. That's the reason why. So all of our resources, as I mentioned, are free. We have lesson plans, videos, slides. There's a PD course for teachers, and a lot of supplemental resources. Plus, this year we added escape rooms, and we currently have those in beta. We made the decision we're going to leave them in beta and continue to collect feedback through the end of December. And then we don't anticipate really any changes, but some of the questions that we're getting about, do I need a Google account, things like that. And we'll show you that a little bit later. We will be addressing in a tips and tip sheet for teachers to help you implement those a little bit better. So yeah, so we're very excited. If you haven't seen our escape rooms, take a look at those, and feel free to ask us any questions down the line. So why should we teach copyright? You guys are on the forefront of understanding copyright. You're the experts in your district in terms of understanding what it is. And it's really, technology has really changed about how we think about creating and sharing. And basically everyone has a printing press right in their pocket today, which means that they can create things like movies and images and music just on the go. And then it's easy to distribute those worldwide. And so kids are interacting, creating, distributing media all day, as are we as adults. And I think with AI, that's currently a topic on everybody's mind, and you probably are using it more or jumping into it if you haven't been. And so really understanding digital literacy, information literacy, the rules of copyright is just as important, if not more important, with AI. So we find that teachers are hungry for this information, as are students. And students really thought, when we did first introduced our curriculum, we did a study with Harvard and Boston Children's Hospital. And we found that students really, I'm going to mute Sharon. Oops. Students really thought that copyright only pertained to the big creators and the big publishers, so the Disneys and the Taylor Swifts of the world. And when they went through our curriculum, they realized that everything that they create, as that same as that doodle that you created, is protected by copyright. And so that gives them not only empathy for others, but really wanting others to protect and respect their rights as a copyright holder. So there's been an interesting shift in the understanding for students. And so we really, as you'll see when we go through our curriculum, it's really positive. We emphasize kids' roles as creators. And you're not going to find, you can't do this, you can't do that kind of thing, but we really empower students and teach them what they can do and how they can use works of others legally and ethically. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Julie, and she's going to get into the basics of copyright.
Okay, so yes, we're going to dig right into the basics. This is probably a lot of review for most of you, prior knowledge, but it's always good to just kind of revisit this, especially right here at the beginning of the school year. So the protection for authors and inventors was established early on in the Constitution, as you can read through this quote right here. It's really important to convey to students that the purpose of copyright is to promote the progress of science and the useful arts. So it's actually about protecting creative work, and it's a really positive thing, not something negative. So the US Constitution gives Congress the power to pass copyright law. And artists and creators do have some control over their work for a limited amount of time. So what does copyright cover? It covers anything, any creative work that's in some kind of a fixed form. So that means written down, digitally saved and recorded. So yes, that means if you did doodle on a sticky note or on your notebook paper today while you were sitting here waiting, that is covered by copyright. That's always an aha moment, that something that I do with my high school students, because they don't realize at all the kind of power they have over their creative work. So it's just a really good a quick activity to do to let kids know that, yes, they have power over their own work. So there are 6 rights of copyright. However, 3 of those deal with work that is shared with the public through display, performance, or digital performance. So these different rights are all variations on the right of public performance. So for the purpose of education, we consolidated the list down to 4. So under these rights, you get to decide who makes the copies, who makes derivatives like a book, or a movie from a book, how copies get distributed, and how the work is displayed or performed in public. Okay, I'm going to show a couple minutes of one of our videos. That's okay. These videos, you'll get to see. This is a very basic video about it's called "What's Up with Copyright." It's part of our middle school lessons, but this will give you a general idea about our content, how professionally it's done, and also just a good way to explain copyright to students in a short video format. All right, Dana.
Technology is awesome, isn't it? Not that technology. I'm talking about the revolutionary technology invented hundreds of years ago, called the printing press.
Dude, that looks old.
Oh, it's old. 600 years old.
Before Gutenberg's printing press, if you wanted a book, someone had to copy it by hand. Only the richest people in the world could afford to buy books. Most people didn't have access to creative work at all. But the printing press changed all that. For the first time, mass production of books became possible, and big ideas could spread fast. An author could finally reach a mass audience, but also, for the first time, an author's life's work could be copied and sold by anyone with a printing press. Does that seem fair?
No way.
So, in 1710, the British government passed the Statute of Anne.
No unauthorized copying of a book for 14 years, with the option to renew for another 14.
By the way, unauthorized means without permission. So authors had time to earn some money from their work before it fell into the public domain. The idea was to encourage them to keep writing, which means even more creativity. Nice, huh?
Nice.
Fast forward 60 years. When it came time to write the Constitution, guess what? Our founding fathers included copyright.
To promote the progress of science and useful arts, by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries.
What?
The Constitution gives Congress the power to pass copyright laws, and as a result, authors have the right to get paid for their books and to decide who gets to make copies.
That makes sense. If you put in all the time to write a really good book that people want to read, you should be able to get paid for it.
And printing books was just the tip of the iceberg. Now I'm talking about your phone. In almost 600 years since Gutenberg's printing press, copying technologies have advanced from copy machines to tape recorders all the way to the internet and your phone. It's easier and easier to copy and distribute creative work all the time. And it's no longer just writings. Today, all it takes is just a few clicks to copy everything from music to video to software. In a world where copying is so easy, we still look to copyright to keep the creativity flowing.
So what does this mean for me? What does it mean for you?
For starters, it means you get a lot of control over your own work. When you make something, a story, photo, novel, poem, song, video, dance, Instapic, tweet, app, video game, even the doodle you drew on your napkin at lunch.
Sweet.
If it involves creativity and is written down, recorded, or saved, then it's protected by copyright, and in general, you get to decide who can make copies, distribute copies, display or perform the work in public, and make spin-offs. We call these derivatives. Like when a book is made into a movie or characters from a movie are made into action figures. You don't have to be a famous singer or artist. Copyright applies to you whenever you make something, whether you choose to share it with other people or not. This also means you can't just take someone else's creative work.
Okay, I'm going to stop it here. I think I got kicked out of the presentation, so let me go back.
We see the presentation.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Yes.
So that's interesting because I don't see it.
Yeah. Okay,
So-
so while Dana's getting herself sorted out there, I do just want to highlight that again, those videos are you can see that they're engaging. They are very positive. And I saw it on the chat. Yes, all of these materials are available on the website and are free. We will be sharing that very, very soon here with you. So I hope that helped give you an idea of what some of our video content is like, but they are very engaging and students are always paying attention. And it's not we can't do this, but rather we show positively how students can be ethical creators. Okay, so now we will go to the next slide.
So are you saying no copyright
I am.
delimitations? Okay. All right.
Yep. Okay, so of course, copyright does have limitations, which we're going to cover in this next section here. Some things to remember are that copyright doesn't cover everything. So some things are not covered by copyright in the first place. Fair use is an exception that allows use of copyrighted protected works under specific conditions, which I'll go over those more in depth in just a second. And then finally, after a certain amount of time, copyright does expire. So first, no copyright, those ideas, facts are not covered. Phone numbers, addresses, map information. Like you can see here, a picture of NASA photos, so government documents, those kinds of things are not covered by copyright in the first place. Which is good because we can use those beautiful photos in our classroom. Another limitation is fair use. So sometimes you can use copyrighted works without seeking permission from the creator, and this is called fair use. It was written under a Supreme Court decision, and it describes the purpose of fair use in this way: to avoid rigid application of the copyright statute when on occasion it would stifle the very creativity which that law is designed to foster. Again, we are wanting to promote the progress of science and art. So that's why fair use is an important limitation to copyright as well. And I love teaching fair use to kids because they're always using other people's creations in their own creations. So they definitely need to know about it. Okay, next slide. Yes. All right, so fair use is a legal doctrine that is decided on a case-by-case basis. So the curriculum says that fair use generally will permit students to reuse or share creative work in school projects that will remain inside the walls of the school classroom. But if students have to if students want to share that work beyond the walls of the school building, then they have to consider copyright all over again. So if they're sharing on social media, it's no longer probably an educational purpose. So that's a very important distinction to make when you're teaching fair use to students. So you can see here that these are the limitations. A lot of times teachers tend to think that everything is okay under the sun with copyright because it's for an educational purpose, but it's a little more nuanced than that. So our job is to try to help students and the adults that we're working with understand those differences. So the good news is we have a 4-factor test, which really, again, is a great way to help, like with high school students especially. I can really dig into some critical thinking skills for them and have them run their own fair use analysis. I've also done this with teachers if they come to me and ask if they can do something. So there are 4 different factors: purpose and character of your use. That's that transformative piece. Are you using that creation to create something that takes on a different meaning? If so, that's more likely considered to be fair use in the courts. Nature of the original. Was it already something very factual, or was it already very, very creative at the beginning? So the more factual it was at the beginning, the more likely it'll be considered fair use. Amount and substance. This is a pretty obvious one. Using a small amount of something is more likely to be considered fair use rather than using the most important part of it or the whole thing. And effect on the market. How is your use going to affect the original copyright holder's ability to make a profit on it? So courts weigh all 4 factors to assess a fair use claim. And one thing that I want to say again, because we are not lawyers, like I really avoid trying to just say, yes, that's fair use, or no, that is not fair use. What I try to do is help analyze that so that people can make their own informed decisions. And then eventually copyright does expire. So in the United States, this includes creative work published more than 95 years ago. So in 2025, all works that were published before 1930. For works created during the last 95 years, but before 1978, this is the little tricky section, copyright status is a little bit more complicated and depends on whether copyright holders took those proper steps to register. So again, before 1978 and the last 95 years. But works created since 1978, copyright protection is automatic and will not expire for many years. Okay, so now is the part where we get to dig into our website and we get to see all the wonderful resources that we offer. So if you want to go to copyrightandcreativity.org along with us, very easy one to remember. We're going to just kind of go through, I have Dana walk us through some important features of our website. If you've never been on before, you will need to register that first time. So that's up in that right-hand corner. And we don't collect, you don't have to remember a password. And it's really only just so we know that our resources are being used by the grantors who are funding this, because we want all our resources to they will always remain free, but we need to know that they're being used. So all you'll do is just enter your email, easy as that, and then you'll have access to everything. And if you've already done that, you should register, then you should just be able to click the login button and log in with your email. Okay, I think what we'll start with right now is going under resources. And let's look, you'll see that at the top there, you see three grade levels, elementary, middle, and high school. So we'll start with elementary. And if you scroll down, you can see that basically each grade level, K through 6 is for our elementary, there's one big lesson that you would teach. Again, I do want to just point out that you can mix and match these. You can completely adapt these how you would like. You don't have to go exactly the way we have this here. And also, Brittany and Jen, since you guys are elementary, please feel free to jump in on this part. But what you can see here is there's a lesson PDF for every lesson. And then there is a Google slide deck as well, so that you can have that visual to show up to your class. So the PDF is very scripted, which is nice. When you first start teaching copyright concepts, it can be very complicated and intimidating. So the script basically just walks you through that PDF, everything that there is to say, the questions to ask, all kinds of notes. It's very thorough and very well done. And likewise, if you go to the Google slide deck in the notes section, that's all of this that you see in the PDF is there as well. So we'll look at the kindergarten lesson right here. One thing that I want to point out too, especially, is because it's all very developmentally appropriate. We don't even introduce the actual word copyright until 3rd grade. So in kindergarten, we're definitely hitting on those social emotional, like how would you feel if somebody took something of yours? Maybe we can play that quick video for Respect the Person for kindergarten. All of our K-1-2 videos, there are no words. So you just watch, have this conversation to talk to the kids about what they see happening. And this video is only a minute, so. So as you can see, it lends itself to a great group discussion. What is happening there? How would you feel? I know, Jen, if you want to jump in on your kindergartner's reaction with the name activity.
Yes, so the main activity is they are to draw a picture and then they hand the picture into their teacher. And I will go through and those who put their name on them, I will say, great job, and then whatever their name is. For those who didn't put their name on them, I sometimes will be like, oh, this was a really great artwork from, and I'll name another student of a class. And the student's like, but that was mine. And I'm like, I don't know it's yours because your name wasn't on it. And, the kids are like, but that's not fair. And then you kind of get them all talking, which is a great segue to this video then. And then, of course, just like Julie said, the social emotional learning aspect of that, of, would you be comfortable if somebody took your artwork? And the big takeaway from this lesson is just put your name on your paper. You want to claim your work. Like, you are the creator and you want to make sure that you are claiming your own work. And again, as you can see, some of the discussion questions are, who created the drawing? How do you think Tim felt when he saw someone else's name on the paper, the same way as maybe you felt when I was trying to say that it was somebody else's paper, but it was really yours? And can I put my name on anything I like? And what do you think was happening in the video?
Also, I do want to point out right there that all of our elementaries lessons have an escape room that goes along with it. Actually, all of our lessons do. These are new. We just created these, finished them up last year, and they are very popular. They're all digital. And these early grade ones are meant to be teacher-led escape rooms that the teacher or librarian would do that in the front of the room with the classroom together. And then we have a facilitator to guide to go with each of our digital escape rooms too. So just a way to get that more hands-on type activity to get the students more engaged. Engagement is important. So it's not just us talking at them, but that they are interacting as well. And again, using their critical thinking skills, communication, collaboration, all those 4 C's of learning that we try so hard to make sure we are teaching with our kids. Dana's going to click on middle school right now, and these lessons are bulkier. There are not as many. So there are 4 lessons that you can dive into. Brittany, do you want to talk a little bit about middle school?
Sure. So I am K4. However, with my 3rd and 4th graders, I have found that throughout the years, one group may know copyright way more than another group. So I actually have been known to use a lot of the middle school resources with my 3rd and 4th graders, because the best thing about our stuff is you can, when you get those Google slideshows, you can move stuff around if you need to, or you can just use the videos, which Dana, is it towards the bottom where the supplemental videos are?
We have to go to each lesson. So do you have a particular lesson you want?
Yeah, let's go to the first one for middle school. That one's my favorite. So Julie mentioned earlier that our lessons are really popular. I mean, really popular. They're really positive. And that's what I love when I use this one to introduce to really dive deep and introduce copyright for the new year with 4th grade. And I like this one because of the meerkat and the polar bear videos. I really get into talking about how would you feel? Well, we start off with the doodle, and then I ask them, what would happen if someone took your doodle? Most of them are like, I don't care. I took 10 seconds to make it. But when you watch those first videos on the lesson, the meerkat and the polar bear, then it really gets those wheels turning, because they see, oh, if I was one of those scientists and I was waiting 2 weeks for the polar bear to come out just to take a video, I'm not sure I want someone to take my work without asking. So it leads to really great discussions. I don't use all the videos from this lesson because, again, I kind of go back and forth depending on what my 3rd and 4th graders know. There's some years that we have to go back to the elementary lessons and use them. And I just saw a chat pop up. How long would a lesson take? It kind of just depends on what you have time for. Some years I only have, because in our district, our computer lab teachers are actually the ones that are required to teach copyright. However, They always let me come in and teach it. And because of that, it depends on how many lessons she's able to give me. So I've done it in one lesson, or I've done it over a few weeks where I'm able to go in one day a week and kind of extend the learning depending on what that class or group needs.
And just so you know, that we have, if you go to the Google Drive folder, the G Suite, all the resources for the lessons, including the videos and the PDF where the script is there, the teaching PDF, everything is here. So you can access it this way, download it if that's how you like to teach it. Or you can just go to, so each of the lessons, the infographics, everything is in a file. So you're able to access the materials that way as well. And there's supplemental materials we have. We'll talk a little bit more about our infographics, but here's a link to the escape room. There's also a link to the escape room on the main middle school landing page, and then also presenter instructions. And these are a little bit different than your lesson PDF, because if it goes through and it talks about different things about teaching copyright, what the lessons are and things. But if you go down to integrating copyright and ethical use into regular coursework. So these are projects that you're likely doing with your students already at the middle school. And so it talks about how you can appropriately bring in our materials, our lessons, so that they marry as opposed to being a standalone.
And I wanted to piggyback on that because someone asked how many minutes needed to complete an idea or lesson, and it really, you can fit it in. Julie will talk in a little bit how she uses it with some of her units and big projects that she does. I think that's the best thing that I feel like, and Jen and Julie, you tell what you think, but some of all of our lessons, it's great because we can make it fit however long we need it, depending on what project or lesson we're teaching. So if you don't have a lot of time and you just have time for some of the videos, that's great. But then I know Julie's going to share something in a little bit that will show you how you can kind of get some independent learning in as well.
I just want to add that for the elementary level, I try to keep the copyright and creativity lessons to go along with the lessons or the book that I was reading. And so for that kindergarten lesson where they have to draw a picture, I don't have them usually draw a random picture. I will usually have them I will do a read aloud of a story. And then what I'll do is, draw your favorite part of the story, or what was the setting, or your favorite character. And then as they're drawing, I have them go to book selection in groups. And then once they sit back down from book selection, then I'll collect the papers. And then that's where that discussion piece will end up happening towards the last 15 minutes of library. So the lessons are segmented in a way where you can incorporate and modify them as you need. You don't have to completely do like what Julie said and Brittany has been saying. You don't have to do it step by step. You can modify it as you think would be best for you in your room. I also just want to add the escape room. It's an extension activity. It's not meant to be used in isolation. And so once you're done with the lesson, that'd be a great opportunity to do a follow-up. And for kindergarten, I will say they obviously have no idea what an escape room is. And so I usually do that as a second lesson, like the next day, or when I see them again in my 4-day cycle, I have them for 45-minute classes. And we will go over, remember last time how you made those pictures? And we talked about, Tim and Carl, and they usually say yes. And I said, okay, well, today we're going to go ahead and do an escape room. And then I explain what an escape room. So I bring in that technology piece, and then obviously collaboration with our classmates and teamwork. And we have a big discussion on the board, which is a follow-up from the lesson. So just to give you an idea of what it looks like in my elementary library when I'm teaching these lessons.
And all of our materials are Creative Commons licensed, so you can use them in whole or in part. We just ask for attribution if you use a snippet of it. So. Okay, so
right.
you
Dana's
wanna-
right here on our high school curriculum. So again, everything is laid out exactly the same way. There are 3 big lessons at the high school level. And again, those can be broken down. You can piecemeal it. You can grab just a couple slides, one of the videos, and just plug it in wherever you can, whenever you get an opportunity to help kids understand that if they're creating, they need to think about copyright. Oh, let's keep going. Yes, professional development. There is an online professional development class through Canvas that you can take. It's totally free, self-paced. It'll take you a couple hours. You do not have to be a Canvas school to take the Canvas course. At the end of it, you get a nice little badge that you could proudly display on your email signature if you would like. And then also for school districts that have a Ludo, the game-based PD, we have the same professional development on that as well. But I really highly recommend you and sharing that with your staff, because it just really does give you a really good overview where you'll feel way more comfortable talking about copyright.
Yeah, and here are the topics: basics, fair use, acquiring and sharing, student activities, and then the FAQs. And the FAQs came directly from educators, so they're likely to be many of the same questions that you or your fellow educators are having.
Also, just a little plug, we do have office hours that'll start up in September. You can see the times that we stagger times and dates so that we can try to accommodate as many people across the country that we can. Dana's always on, and then one of the 3 of us will usually be on as well with her. So that's for if you have a question, or you just want to, maybe you want to talk through fair use. Maybe you just want a little more explanation about one of the lessons. Please feel free to hop on and chat with us. Also, you can see we've got webinar recordings from past webinars that we've done. This one will be on here probably about a week from now, maybe?
Yeah, week, 10 days, yeah. So it'll be found in the archive. But you can see we have one on mentoring teachers. So if you're charged with being the official mentor or an unofficial mentor for your colleagues, we go through a lot of our materials, but we try to address, again, scenarios that teachers need some training and to feel comfortable with. And then also here's the webinar on our escape room. So you can.
And also we do offer professional development. So mostly virtual, unless, you happen to be really close to one of the 3 of us ladies here, but free of cost too. So we're happy to lead a professional development session for your district as well.
Okay, so let's jump back into our presentation. Oh, here's our escape rooms.
Here's our escape rooms.
Yep.
Give them a look. They're kind of fun to do. All right. So again, we talked earlier about embedding some of these copyright concepts into things that we are already doing. I've been an elementary librarian and a middle school librarian, and now I'm high school. So I've been at all the levels. And these are just some quick examples of things that I've tried in the past that you could borrow, steal, use. I totally grant you using anything you see here. On the left there, you see a picture book. I always, when I was an elementary librarian, Jen said it too, like whatever book you're reading, how can you tie in something? So that is a hyperdoc that would be more for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. After they've read the book, there are creation opportunities. And I believe in that hyperdoc, they have a chance there's a video embedded if you want to scroll, there's a video right there. So again, rather than teaching the entire lesson, I plopped a video down, and then they had to apply what they learned later after they created a digital bento box. And then they had to decide how they wanted to share it. So I think it's down further, Dana, probably like slide 10, 11, maybe even further.
Oh,
there it is. Yes.
Yep.
And then if you keep scrolling, it asks them how they wanted to share it. Also using those images from the Creative Commons or the Google Creative Commons and Google Slides, it's already defaulted to that. So just trying to embed and apply, it doesn't have to be the whole lesson, which is the beauty of it. It's just a natural, organic part of it. Middle school, you see there, you've got the graphic design challenge. That actually is not my lesson. That is an art music, an art teacher who wanted her students to use Canva to design album covers. And that aligns really well with two of our lessons. Lesson 1, which is about sharing, and lesson 3, I believe, gets into the music a little bit. So feel free to look that over.
Wants me to log in. Okay.
Yeah, let's go
skip
back.
that.
Yes. Lesson 3 talks about musicians and sharing music legally and whatnot. So, oh, and then this one is my podcasting unit that I do every year with my high school students. I do it with seniors, and I also do it with freshmen over different topics. This is my Nearpod. So they're creating podcasts, and we talk a lot about the kind of music they can use. We actually have a WeVideo subscription in here. And when you get to the end of this Nearpod, I have embedded some copyright stuff in here. So the students are going to be watching a couple videos at the end, and they're going to take a little open-ended quiz about copyright at the end. So feel free to use that. A lot of them want to use their own favorite popular music, and that just lends itself really well to talking about, wow, can we do that? Is that okay to do that? So and embed when you can is what I would say. And now I believe I'm turning this over to Jenn.
Yes.
Yes. I've talked a lot, so.
All right, my turn now. So for copyright and creativity, a question that I got from a lot of educators, librarians, myself are, why did you choose copyright and creativity? What makes these lessons so special? The one thing that I have to say is that when I was looking for lessons on this topic, I was coming up with a limited number of resources. Some of the resources were for higher level of education. Maybe they started in 4th grade or college, so forth. And what I really liked about it was the fact that it started that early, the lessons in kindergarten, and it sets that foundation right away. Just like anything else that we teach in school, we'd love for them to get a little bit of the knowledge in kindergarten and then keep growing and adding on every single year. The lessons were also free. It wasn't that I had to have a subscription to use them or anything like that. And the lessons are really relatable. My students enjoy them. Year after year, they joke around. They're like, oh no, there's Carl again. And there are other names that are in the lessons and videos, but the students recognize the characters and they're relatable, they're engaged. It also gives them the opportunity to think instead of always being told like what's happening. They're able to watch those videos, as you saw earlier, and be able to really start that discussion. Julie already mentioned the lessons are in 2 formats, PDF, Google Slides. I really enjoy this part of the school year when I'm teaching copyright because I don't have to create lesson plans. They're already created for me. Everything is there, what materials and how long it might take. And the messages are positive. Instead of speaking at my students, I'm speaking with my students. And it became a great conversation starter, especially for my older grades where they're like, copyright, what is that? And from an early age, they talk about copyright of being the C and the circle in a book. And, there's more meaning to copyright than just the copyright of a book. And the last thing is the newsletter. I can't say this enough. Advocate, advocate, advocate. No matter what you are teaching, advocate for yourself as to what you are teaching, because we are all doing really amazing things in our schools. And this is a great opportunity to show what you are teaching every single day. And there's a newsletter that you can print out at the bottom of all the Google Slides. You can put your name on them. Just have attribution at the bottom, which is on there. And it's just a great opportunity. There's extension lessons that they could be doing at home. And again, it just advocates to what we're teaching in schools, which is great. The when, where, and how is the next question I usually get of like, well, when am I supposed to be teaching this? Is it a standalone lesson? Is it just, I just randomly do it, or do I incorporate it with something else? I do it both ways. For kindergarten and 1st grade, it's just one 2 lessons with the escape room if they've never done one before. And I use the respect the person for kindergarten and first grade. And I do that as a standalone. So that's usually not with a research project or anything like a big project or extension activity or a unit. But again, as I already told you, like I'll read a story and then I will do a follow-up with that. The older grades, I will align it with a project. We have lots of great research projects that are happening in our library, collaborating with our classroom teachers. And therefore, these lessons are a great opportunity to be utilizing during that time so that the students can really see, okay, I want to put images on my Google slide. Where can I get those images from? And what's covered under copyright and what's not covered under copyright, and I'm confused. Like, can I use my own work? Can I use my classmates' work? And how does this all work in general? How does this all go together? The best part about teaching, I think, is reflecting at the end of the day. I mean, some days we have rough days, yes, but some days we have days that we're like, this is awesome, you know, like our students really gave us positive feedback and we're excited, and we just feel like, yes, one student just made my day by giving me a positive compliment. So here are some reactions from my students, again, from these lessons, directly from these lessons. Kindergarten through 3rd grade, I'm never forgetting to put my name on my paper again. I will say that the art teacher loves when I do this lesson, especially the kindergarten and 1st grade teachers, because the students are not forgetting to put their name on their paper. Like, hold on, I need my paper back. I forgot to put my name on it. So I find that that's really important and also transfers to other classes. It's great to create and play fair is talking about collaboration, talking about teamwork and getting along with a classmate. As you can read, it'd be cool if my friend took the picture I drew and put it on a t-shirt, but only if they told everyone it was my picture. They didn't try claiming it as their own work. And then sharing fairly. I would be mad if someone took the picture I made and did something with it without asking me first. As Julie said earlier about that social emotional learning aspect, you can see from these student reactions that these lessons do touch base on SEL. And then 4th through 6th grade, again, I didn't realize I had so much power over everything I created. That one hit home to me because honestly, before this, I didn't even realize that I had so much power over everything that I created as an educator, as a college student. And so I learned a lot as well. And so I could see why my students, who are being more creative and digital users and everything, I wasn't surprised, but it hit me like, yeah, you know what? Like, who is teaching this? Who is explaining all these great topics to you? I really like the fact that I can create anything I want and people have to ask my permission to use it or share it with others. Doesn't this mean teachers should be asking me to use my creative work on their website or when they're sharing it with the class? That was a great discussion starter. And then if almost everything is covered by copyright, what are we allowed to use? And that was an introduction video, sparked their interest in wanting to know more from the 4th grade lesson. And then we had a conversation about Creative Commons, public domain, fair use, and it just segued into that. And now it is time for Brittany to talk.
All right, so as educators, how can we use copyrighted works in school? Well, in certain situations, we're allowed to use copyrighted works. The first being in-class teaching, that's allowed. So that means face-to-face, nonprofit educational institution, and of course, the copy that you're using has to be obtained legally. And this is usually where we get questions about showing videos or movies, or playing films, or in class, or playing films at family activity nights, PTO, PTA nights. Again, we are not lawyers. We cannot give you legal advice. However, please check your district policies, check to see what all that says, check to see if you have any sort of license, like Swink Media has one. But also, where did your copy come from and to what extent is your audience? So this is what I mean. If you are, let's take a history teacher, for example, and you want to show a part of a biography of George Washington. You know your copy came legally. You know you are a true educational institution or nonprofit educational institution. And you also know it fits your curriculum. There's a true educational purpose. It is not just a reward, then you can use it. But then number two, there's also fair use. So fair use, we can use copyrighted works after applying those 4-factor tests that Julie mentioned earlier in the presentation. If it meets that criteria for fair use, then you're okay. So, but you have to go remember all 4 of those: the purpose and character, the amount and substance, nature of the original, and of course the effect on the market. So even though education sometimes, and I hear it all the time, even in my elementary, but we're teachers, we can make those copies, we can show those films. Please make sure you're asking yourself those 4-factor tests to help yourself. There are other situations. You've got Creative Commons, you've got public domain, and then there's also subscriptions. So sometimes, especially with public domain and Creative Commons, it's okay for you to use works. We know that some artists, authors, they want you to be able to use their stuff. And so that's where Creative Commons is great, because it has all those different licensing terms. And also you have the public domain. When something runs out of copyright, it's going to be on public domain for you. So you can use other copyrighted works that have been licensed by creators under Creative Commons. This is a great thing to teach your students. Of course, I don't teach it in elementary because it's a little over their head. We do talk about Creative Commons, but this would be something for junior high, high school, where they could start understanding that their work can also be licensed. With Creative Commons, again, your creator can license his or her own work with specific Creative Commons license that determines how others may use their work. I know in the grad class that I teach, I've had some of those grad students ask, they're all teachers, they're wanting to be librarians, and they all ask, should we start doing that with presentations that we make? And I think it's a good habit to get into, because it's great to be that role model, to model what we're teaching our students. So let's move to the next one. Dana, do we have time to go?
We've got 9 minutes, so I think we can go through this quickly.
Okay, so sometimes educators confuse these two. We've got infringement and plagiarism. So the confusion is they kind of one could be the other, and people tend to think they are the exact same. So because both raise important questions about how and when we can use others' work, but there are very important differences. So let's start with plagiarism. Plagiarism focuses on academic integrity. It's important that students, but also adults, do not try to pass off others' work as their own. To avoid plagiarism, students need to identify copy materials and cite their sources. And this is sometimes where confusion comes in, because people will say, but I cited my source, so therefore I'm not breaking copyright laws. But copyright laws focus more on the incentives for that creator, that production of new creative work. It therefore aims to ensure that the authors and creators can control their work and get paid if they choose to. It's not just to receive proper attribution and acknowledgement, and that's where the confusion lies. Copyright infringement and plagiarism are separate problems, but in some situations, a student may cite their source properly, but still infringe on someone's copyright. Or a student could use work and be fine with the copyright perspective, but it still can be plagiarism. So the next few slides show some examples of that. So in scenario 1, you have student A, they write a blog post, and they're going to pull images from the photographer's website to illustrate that post. This student's very careful to give full attribution to the photographer. Just take a few seconds and see.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I gave him the answer.
Surprise! Here's the answer. If the student does cite their sources, they use quotation marks. They indicated exactly who that person's work was, but it still infringes on the copyright because it's not authorized for them to do that. So it does not qualify as fair use, especially because it's that personal blog post. It's not an educational purpose. All right, the next one is you've got student A, and student A gives student B permission to use several paragraphs that they wrote in a story. So with permission, remember student A got permission to do it, is there any copyright infringement? Well, this time, you can go ahead and show the answer. It could be okay to use, they got permission, right? but it could be plagiarism, because if this person is trying to show that made it look like it was their own work, they didn't give any attribution at all, even though they got permission and it's okay as far as copyright infringement, they are still guilty of plagiarism because they did not attribute correctly. All right, this one's a big question lately. AI and AI potential infringement. So this one is still ongoing. We really recommend you check the Copyright Office because they are constantly updating and looking at things. Dana's got a link on there for you. But one of the things that is noted right now that is, if there is not a human creator, there is no copyright. And the reason is because this monkey selfie, which is a great example. So the story is, you've got this monkey. This photographer taught these monkeys to take selfies, taught them how to use the shutter on the camera. Well, later the photographer was using it in some kind of project, and an organization came out and said, you don't own those photographs to be able to show them without the monkey's permission. The monkeys own it. But the courts found that a monkey's not human, so therefore the monkey doesn't own it. So that's kind of where AI is right now. If there's not a human creator, there's no copyright. But again, that is constantly changing. And I know that there's been some things come out in some library journals where some publishers and authors are upset about their work being used to train the chatbots. So that's all kind of interesting, but there's so much that's going to come out from all of this. But we'll just have to wait and see. And I'm going to turn it back to Julie to talk about this one.
So if you go into Google Gemini, one really neat thing that they do, though, that I do like, is when you see things that are highlighted in different colors, it tells you, like, it can tell you where it came from. So that is a nice feature that is in the Google Gemini one. So it is good to see, like, where something came from. And then I think the other colors might mean, like, they don't know where it came from. So it gives you some direction on how you can look at that too, like what it means. So this example is from Symbolism of Color with Great Gatsby. Yeah, go ahead. And then again, just we're at time here, but using others' works, there are always very recent copyright cases to talk about with your students. Here you see Ed Sheeran. It's always in the news. It's always relevant. So just kind of always be on the lookout for different cases and different ways you can share information with others about it to show that, yeah, this is something real life people do have to think about. And I know even with my fourth graders, they love to hear real world situations. It almost kind of really hits home for them. And sometimes they even know more than me, and they'll come up with a question that I hadn't even heard of that case yet. So it's really interesting to talk to your students about it. Right. And I don't know if anybody listened to the New Heights podcast yesterday that had like 2 million listeners because Taylor Swift was on it. She talked a lot in that podcast about her music and her wanting to have ownership of her music. It was a big deal. So she's always a great advocate for copyright and all of those issues as well. So look into real world. That's what's going to get the kids.
So that's great. Thank you, ladies. So do we have questions in the chat? You can always email me, Dana at copyrightandcreativity.org or info@copyrightandcreativity.org, or you can use the Zoom link, Greenspan Dana S at Gmail for questions. But we really encourage you to join us on our office hours because as the gal said, each one takes a week, and we're here for a full hour to help you talk about, what you might be facing, the questions that your colleagues might be coming to you with. And while, again, we can't give you legal advice, we can walk, again, through the fair use for factors or different, provide you different tools to help you come up with that decision that's correct for you and your district. So, so any questions before we? Well, thank you again. Thank you, ladies. As always, you did an excellent job. You can tell how well-informed they are and how the copyright curriculum really feeds into the instruction they're providing to students. And again, they have great tips about how you can integrate our materials so that you're not doing a standalone lesson, or again, if it's appropriate to do that standalone lesson. So, you know, we encourage you to use our materials. Again, they're free. You can use them in whole or in part. We just ask again for attribution. And yeah, so we're right at 2:00. Again, see us at ASL if you're there. We'd love to have you come by and say hello and introduce yourself. If you have follow-up questions, you can always email us, or you can jump on office hours starting in September. So thank you everyone for attending, and have a great 25-26 school year. Bye. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Okay.